God in all struggles, saints, kids, and Nevis be. Nation bound together with a common destiny. As stalwarts we stand for justice and liberty with wisdom and truth. We will serve and honor thee. No sword, no spear can conquer, for God will sure defend. His blessings shall forever to posterity extend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edward. Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Pastor Leroy Matthew of the People's Evangelistic Center.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. We bless you for this afternoon that we've come for the start of this conference. You said if we would acknowledge you in all our ways, you would direct our paths. And that's what's happening here tonight. We are putting you first. We are acknowledging that you're God, you're in charge, and you're the one that has the ability to keep everything together. And for that, we bless you. Great has been your faithfulness, and we will continue to praise you all the days of our lives. We bless you for those who had to travel to get here, for a safe trip. And God, we pray that as they sit in this conference, that the Spirit of God would have full control. We ask that there'll be unity. We pray that there'll be no confusion of any sort. But God, we pray that at the end of this conference, things may be accomplished, God, and everything would be together. We bless you for what you've done for this group over the years. And God, we believe that you're going to take them to greater heights and deeper depths in the name of Jesus. So, bless everyone who has come today. Bless this ceremony and bless the entire conference. For that we give you praise and glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Matthew. You may now have a seat. Mr. Timothy Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Dr. Cletus Burton, Executive Director of SKLEC, members of the Board of Directors of the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited and the Caribbean and SKLEC, Mr. Clement Williams, General Manager of the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited, other senior managers and staff of SKLEC Electricity Company Limited, specially invited guests and delegates, good evening. It is truly an incredible feeling to see so many of you gathered here tonight. The movers and shakers, leaders, innovators, and change makers in the electric utility industry. Truly the heartbeat of the Caribbean, united by a shared mission to power progress across our region. With great pleasure, I welcome you to the SKLEC Human Resources, Corporate Communications, and Customer Service Conference 2025. This conference is more than just an event. It is a powerhouse of ideas, strategies, and collaborations designed to strengthen our industry and the communities we serve. We thank SKLEC and the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation for hosting such an auspicious occasion, and we say thank you to SKLEC for agreeing to be this year's co-host. SKLEC fosters collaboration among electric utilities and leads regional advocacy for excellence in power generation, distribution, and customer service. Through flagship events like the CEO Leadership Conference and Renewable Energy and Smart Grid Conference, it drives innovation, resilience, and sustainable energy solutions across the Caribbean. The theme for this year's conference, Beyond Compliance, Creating a Culture of Caring, Communication, and Commitment, challenges us to shift our focus from simply following regulations to actively fostering workplaces where people feel valued, heard, and inspired to give their best. In the utility sector, where we power homes, businesses, and entire economies, the culture is not just important, it is critical. Tonight, we are joined by distinguished human resources, corporate communications, and customer service professionals from across the Caribbean and beyond, each bringing unique experiences, perspectives, and expertise. Let's take a moment to recognize the rich diversity of the nations and utilities represented here. From the land of 365 beaches, Antigua and Barbuda, from the Antigua Public Utilities Authority. Bahamas, a breathtaking archipelago of 700 islands, Bahamas Power and Light and Grand Bahama Company. Don't fault me for this one, but this is what Google said. The birthplace of rum and Bajan pride, Barbados Light and Power Company Limited. Belize, home of the Great Blue Hole, Belize Electricity Limited. Bermuda, famous for its pink sand beaches, Bermuda Electric Lights Company Limited. British Virgin Islands, known as a sailor's paradise, British Virgin Islands Electricity Services Corporation. Cayman Islands, a world leader in finance, Caribbean Utilities Company Limited. The Nature Isle of the Caribbean, Dominica Electricity Services Limited. The Spice Isle of the Caribbean, Grenada Electricity Services Limited. The land of reggae, bold flavors, and the fastest runners in the world, Jamaica Public Service Company Limited. The Emerald Isle, Montserrat Utilities Limited. I think I might have to update this one with fastest runners. Home of the majestic Pitons and home to Julian Alfred, St. Lucia Electricity Services Limited. St. Martin, a cultural melting pot of both French sophistication and Dutch charm, NVGB. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, an unspoiled saving haven for 32 breathtaking islands, St. Vincent Electricity Services Limited. Steeped in history with well-preserved colonial architecture, center station, Stuco NV. A lush, bold, diverse nation where countries around the world unite. Suriname. NV. That. Thank you so much for that. The home of the steel pan, soca, and calypso, Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. I feel like some are missing, but maybe they're not in alphabetical order, but we'll continue. A sanctuary of luxury known for pristine white sand beaches, Turks and Caicos, Fortis TCI. A key global partner driving technological advancement, United States. I don't have the company here, but I think it's OHM International. Correct? Correct. Okay. I don't want to get in trouble on the first day. The Happy Island, Aruba. NV Elma. Okay. Did I miss anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Did I miss? That's it? Nobody else? Oh, that really wasn't intentional. But I promise you it was not intentional. The mother colony of the West Indies, where you followed your heart to get here, St. Kitts, SKLEC, and Nevis, Nevlec. Oh, thank you. We'll now move on to welcome remarks by the General Manager of SKLEC, Mr. Clement Williams. Curacao, I know I forgot someone, you know. Aqualectra. Yes. Wait, I have a write-up for you to hold on. Bursting with color, from its Dutch-inspired architecture to its vibrant coral reefs. Curacao Aqualectra. Are we good now? Everybody's covered? Yes? All right. We'll now invite Mr. Williams to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Now, what Patrice might not have realized she did was actually introduce the the location of the CEO conference, which is coming up in May, which is in Curacao. So it might have been last, but definitely not least. Now, it's a great honor to be here tonight, and my first duty here is to welcome each and every one of you. Now, it's indeed a record-breaking night for us here, as this conference, the HR Corporate Communications Customer Service Conference, is the largest one ever held by SKLEC. So when Pastor Matthew mentioned moving on to higher heights, I think tonight we have done that. We have exceeded the maximum number for this conference by at least 50 persons. All right. Now, the protocol being established, let me move right into my speech. It's with great pleasure and a deep sense of pride that I welcome you all to this significant gathering, the SKLEC Human Resource, Corporate Communications and Customer Service Conference. On behalf of the St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited, SKLEC, we are honored to co-host this event alongside SKLEC, an organization that continues to foster meaningful dialogue, collaboration, and best practices within the utility sector across the Caribbean. We gather here under the theme, Beyond Compliance, creating a culture of caring, communication, and commitment. This theme is both timely and transformative, urging us to move beyond policies and regulation to create work environments that are rooted in genuine care, effective communication, and unwavering commitment. It compels us to ask ourselves, are we merely adhering to standards, or are we fostering cultures that truly empower our employees and enhance the customer service experience? At the heart of every successful organization is its people, whether it be the linesmen who brave the elements to restore power, the customer service representative who patiently assists a distressed customer, or the communications team who work tirelessly to build and mend relationships with the public. Every role is indispensable. It's our people who drive our success, and therefore, investing in their well-being, professional growth, and job satisfaction is not only a priority, it is a necessity. At SKLEC, we recognize that an engaged workforce translates into a satisfied customer base. We take pride in fostering a corporate culture that values integrity, inclusivity, and continuous improvement. Over the years, we have committed ourselves to building a resilient team, one that remains steadfast in the face of challenges and innovative in its approach to service excellence. We understand that beyond our responsibilities as an essential service provider, we are also custodians of public trust. That trust is nurtured through transparency, responsiveness, and a customer-centric mindset. I am proud to lead a team of committed, energetic, and resilient people. I cannot think of a more powerful team. As we embark on this conference, we have a unique opportunity to share insight, exchange best practices, and collectively shape the future of human resources, corporate communications, and customer service in our industry and throughout the region. Over the next few days, we will engage in thought-provoking discussions, interactive sessions, and strategic dialogues that will challenge us to think beyond traditional frameworks. We will explore emerging trends, leverage technology for enhanced customer engagement, and delve into strategies that reinforce a people-first approach in all aspects of our operations. I encourage each of you to fully immerse yourself in this experience, learn from one another, forge new connections, and take back actionable strategies to your respective organizations. Let this conference be more than just a meeting of the minds. Let it be a catalyst for real change. Where compliance is not our ceiling, but our foundation. And where we push beyond it to create cultures that inspire, uplift, and transform. Once again, welcome to this gathering of forward thinkers and industry leaders. Thank you to SKLEC for their steadfast commitment to advancing regional collaboration, and to all of you for your dedication to excellence in human resources, corporate communications, and customer service. I look forward to the enriching discussions ahead and to witnessing the collaborative impact that will emerge from this conference. Welcome to Sweet Sugar City, and thank you all for attending the conference.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Let's give him another round of applause. So as you can see, we're up like 7 in Sweet Sugar City, and as we continue with the program, I'm going to now invite Dr. Burton, the Executive Director for SKLEC, to provide opening remarks. Let us welcome Dr. Burton.
Thank you, Mistress of Ceremonies. Good evening, everyone. That wasn't everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Almost everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited. I'm almost tempted to do like the school kids do when they're asked to answer a question. Everything he said. I agree. Distinguished Governor, I know protocols have been established, but distinguished Governor of the ECCB, thank you so much for acceding to our invitation to deliver the keynote this evening. We are truly honored to have you in our presence, and we look forward to your thoughts that you will share with us momentarily through the keynote. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Yes. And all of you, I really love the welcome, calling everybody, all the countries by name. And it's truly, again, as he said, a record number, 23 utilities actually in attendance, 23 out of the 33 party members. Yes, they deserve, yep. Yes. 23 out of 33 is not too bad at all. We normally have 15, 16 on a good year, utilities participating, so 23 is quite a stretch. And we're very excited about the possibilities. And if I could just share some thoughts with you briefly, the theme and how it is meant to be elaborated, as he said. No, seriously, the theme, we really took great effort in coming up with a theme that would sort of speak to what we think is essential in the transitioning of the sector. So very often we pay attention to the technology, to generation, T&D, and RE and EE, and all these acronyms that the engineers throw about the place. But really at the engine of change and transitioning and transformation is human capital, right? Human capital. And most of you, some of you, all of you in this room are entrusted with operations that deal with human capital. So whether it's HR or corporate communications, public relations, both internal and external, whether it's customer service, customer care, all deal with human beings. Internal to the organization and external to the organization. And when we speak about beyond compliance, as again your CEO mentioned, we're talking about not overlooking the need for compliance. In an age of regulatory reform, yes, and standards, we are very much interested and committed to compliance. And so what we're saying is that as we treat with the human dimension, we need to go even beyond just mere compliance. And so we establish, again, a foundation, a baseline that we're seeking to transcend. And we do this, we are proposing or postulating through caring communication, and you could do a comma between those words or take it out, either way it reads well. Caring communication or caring communication. And we played around with the use of compassion in terms of the C's. If you see the C's were kind of flowing. But caring communication that builds commitment. And it speaks to a broader rubric of compassionate leadership, if you have a chance to look at that new emerging body of work that speaks to a balanced leadership that could drive performance and accountability with care and compassion. And the two are not diametrically opposed as it sounds. So we are saying that we build that sense of commitment within the organization, within our ranks, within our customer base, who are now going to be having options in that space. We have prosumers, we have IPPs, we have other competitive forces coming on stream, and so we can't just rely on the monopoly hold. They have no other choice. We need to move beyond compliance, even from our customers, and ensure that there is commitment, a sense of engagement. So just a little bit of further context to what is SKLEC, why we are here. Many of you would know SKLEC started off as an association of electric utilities some 35 years ago. Started off by the Eastern Caribbean, for the most part, electric utilities, or totally with 9 or so. And then we have grown now to a membership, as I said before, 33 electric utilities. But way beyond that, we have membership categories of associate members, affiliate members, in the region of 64 and 12 for affiliate. And from 8 years ago, some of you may have heard of this transition story before, but I would want to just emphasize that SKLEC itself is also in transition, even as the sector is in transition. And so for those of you in the room here, this is very, I think, important context with the theme in mind, because we are saying we are in transition. Not just the technology and the generation, the people will need to transition or facilitate the change, yeah? And so we are moving into, for example, the main part of that transition is repositioning to have a broader perspective, a broader representation of the sector. So our byline, for example, has changed over the last 6 years, from an association of electric utilities to an association of electric energy solution providers. We've also changed our membership structure. So now we have 2 new membership categories, one for independent power producers, IPPs. There were some in membership before in the full membership category, in the associate member, kind of scattered and not really. We brought them into a distinct category for IPPs with board representation. So they have a vote, they have a say in the governance. It's not just a cosmetic change, yeah? And so we went further to the IPP membership category to also now include an individual membership category, which has 4 classes. The individual membership category is students, so undergrad, postgrad, academics, researchers, lecturers, independent practitioners, so your solar PV installers, your energy auditors, your EV technicians, your small little consultant without any big name firm could now be a member of SKLEC, the regional association, in their own name and standing. The power of human capital, shoulder to shoulder with the big players. Yeah? And then we also have the 4th class in the individual membership category, honorary lifetime members, of which we are populating with former chairman of the board, the founding member CEOs who were there at the time of SKLEC established, industry stalwarts. So in addition to broadening the perspective and representation of the association in a very real and tangible way, we're also facilitating greater knowledge management, greater learning from the experience, the wisdom of our elders, those who have gone before. And we've already seen it manifested in our operations, where a former honorary lifetime member, they would have a pass to conferences, being invited to board dinner, and he sat with us. Jomo, you remember? I wouldn't call names, but he attended the board dinner and recently retired, and he's still sharp, and he's able to speak now more freely. He's able to speak more freely, not encumbered by the trappings of office, and he's there at the board dinner. He attended the board strat session the next day, and cutting-edge insights, yes? About his experiences and what we could be doing differently, and even mistakes probably, he didn't call it that, right? But things that he would have done differently. And that's the sort of knowledge management that we are tending to bring into the association to leverage what we said was the main engine of growth, which was human capital, which you here in the room are responsible for. And the last thing I'll say, I know I didn't come with prepared remarks, so that's a recipe for speaking long. The last thing I would say is that the success of this event is not about the success of this event. The success of this event is what happens after this event. Yes? How we're able to translate the learning, the knowledge, the sharing, the networking, the resources, the information that we have gleaned into action. Into action. And that's why we always make the point to say, SKLEC is not, we do events, and kudos to our brilliant events coordinator to the back, Kiefer Isaac Marfrey. Give her a round of applause, please. Kiefer, solely, please. Yeah. And of course, the SKLEC team. Oh, well, there's a vote of thanks coming. I'm sort of preempting. I'm so sorry. If I get into the thanking, I'll be here. So just to say, there are many persons, the SKLEC team and the SKLEC team in the background, the vote of thanks. Chelsea, if you miss any, I'll jump right in and help you with the vote of thanks. Be warned. I'm anxious to thank people. But what I was saying, folks, in closing, this is not just an event. SKLEC is not an events management association. We don't just do events. There are others who do events, maybe I would dare say almost as good as us, you know, although that's their speciality, but they're almost as good as us. So when we have events, folks, it's really meant to be a convening of minds and information that is a spark for action between events. So what we'd really like to see and judge from the success of this, to the extent to which we have implementation. Richard, we have action. We have our associate members, wink wink, our associate members coming in and networking and helping our utility members, action, strategies and plans and programs in between events. And when we come here, we simply highlight the success stories, the lessons learned, we share best practice, and we go back and with hopefully the assistance of SKLEC as a secretariat, assist with this continual 365, 24/7 engagement and sharing and forming task force. And what we'd like to see, for example, if there's a commonality when we have the utilities member update, 4 utilities are working on a similar project, let's have a task force, a cluster, let's develop a pilot project to roll it out. You know what I'm saying? So it really, the success is what happens after the event and between events. And then we're hopefully going to create this culture of caring commitment, caring communication, and commitment, and move beyond compliance. Thank you very much. Of caring commitment.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burton, for providing your opening remarks. We'll now have a cultural presentation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the St. Kitts and Nevis culture. Let's welcome them.
No, 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 no. Boom. I'm so proud to be a citizen of this land, my blessed nation. Together we stand, so make me tell you about St. Kitts and Nevis, and the nicest place around the world. Lovely jelly tree, one for you and one for me. So we could have cool, you know, under a little vibes. Cry like the fire bubble up the rise. We full of pride and we realize. So done this, so done this. I make me tell you about St. Kitts and Nevis, at the nicest place on a ramp road. They're manifesting, like Valencia said. Now sell out me country, yeah. I am a product of the island. Wouldn't change if you know what I know. They get them pretty like the pussy and a flow of them. They get a fatty edge, your back make you not tough again. Kim Collins put way and the map and now we boss again. The MVP has a balance and now we up again.
Indians on the warpath, starting the chant. Hands up, you love the Indian. 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 Move! Hey ya, 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 hey ya. Sabi Indian chief came and said to me, for carnival I want to play an Indian can sign it. I love your band, anyway you can be a party, young man you really send them wide. So I got my pen and paper and I start to write this song. The Indian spirit fell in me and made my thinking strong. Talking and everybody jump with the new bass band when we come down to Baymont. The Indians screaming, shouting, new verse is the greatest. Lord, the music really turn me on. Put their hands up, hands on, wind it to the rhythm. When we start to sing this Indian song. Aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh, aye, oh.
Thank you so much. Let's give the presenters another round of applause. We'll now have the introduction of the keynote speaker, the featured speaker, and this will be done by Mr. Giovanni Fleming, Customer Service Representative at SKLEC. Let us welcome Mr. Fleming.
You can hear me? Okay. Better? All right. Good evening, everyone. Please allow me to adopt the protocol that has been so ably established. It is my pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker this evening, the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy N.J. Antoine. Timothy Antoine is an economist and development practitioner who was born in Grenada. He has served as the third governor of Eastern Caribbean Central Bank since the 1st of February 2016. Mr. Antoine was a Bachelor of Science in Economics from the University of West Indies, Cayville, and a Master's of Science in Social Policy and Planning in Development Countries from the London School of Economics. He has invested 14 years of his life as Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance of the Government of Grenada. From 2005 to 2007, Mr. Antoine served as advisor to the Executive Director for Canada, Ireland, and the Caribbean, and was based in Washington, D.C. In 2016, he was the recipient of the Order of Grenada Gold Award for Excellence. In 2018, he was awarded an honorary doctorate in Humane Letters by St. George's University. In 2018, he received a certificate for outstanding leadership and public service from UWI Cayville on the occasion of UWI's 70th anniversary. In 2025, he received an award for exceptional contribution to finance for the occasion of Grenada Golden Jubilee. Mr. Antoine is currently the chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Home Mortgage Bank since 2016, Caribbean of Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange since 2017, and chairman of CCRIF SPC since 2018. He also serves as a board member of Toronto Center for Global Leadership in Financial Supervision since 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Antoine.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Let me also acknowledge our Master of Ceremonies. I will stand on the protocol already established, but of course I do want to recognize the board of SKLEC, the Executive Director, Dr. Burton, CEO Williams of SKLEC, and all those who are joining us this evening. I look around and I see the head of public service for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, the federal government, so I want to acknowledge her presence, and many other colleagues around the room. I also look around and I see a couple of my colleagues from Team ECCB, and I want to big up Team ECCB. Thanks for joining me this evening on this assignment. So thank you very much for the team who will assist me. I have a presentation which I will share. The flight might be about 60 minutes. Well, just kidding, it will be a little less than that. Just checking to see. After the cultural, you should be energized and ready to run for a little bit with me, all right? So I need you to run with me for a while. So, let me get started. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and good evening. Good evening. Thank you. First, I wish to commend the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation, SKLEC, and the St. Kitts Electricity Company, SKLEC, for hosting this important conference. Thank you for your gracious invitation to share some thoughts at the opening and CEO Williams was very insistent on checking on my availability for this. Thank you for that invitation. Happy that we were able to connect, and I'm here to share. Before I proceed to do so, I wish to hail the collective that is SKLEC. SKLEC, you do good work in all seasons, but you show up and shout most in difficult times and dire circumstances, like Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and of more recent vintage Beryl. Your mobilization and execution after major storms is a quintessential model of regional solidarity and collective action and cooperation, and is worthy of high commendation and emulation. So you beat me to it. I was going to ask you to join me in a rousing applause for SKLEC. But I will say to you, a grateful region says thank you. This evening, it is my distinct privilege to speak to such a talented assembly of dedicated professionals. Whether you are in human resources, or what we call these days people management, corporate communications, or customer service, or customer care, each of you plays a critical role in the operations of your respective company, its culture, and in shaping its future. At this juncture, before I continue, I wish to express heartfelt condolences to both the Barbados Light and Power Company and SKLEC on the passing of Jackie Marshall Clark, a beloved Barbadian and an outstanding corporate communications executive. May Jackie's soul rest in eternal peace, and may her memory be a perpetual blessing. Now to the theme of this conference. Beyond compliance, creating a culture of caring, communication, and commitment. Imagine with me, if you will, for a moment, the superpower of your company's success. Not strategy, not policies, not protocols, not technology, but something more foundational and fundamental. Your culture. Culture, the way we communicate, collaborate, and work towards a common purpose, is the foundation for our lasting success. As Peter Drucker, management guru, famously remarked, and you know this, culture eats breakfast every single time. And he's absolutely right, because as we can all attest, the best strategies and compliance frameworks will only succeed if they are anchored and supported by a people-centered culture. So let's get started. Okay, so I guess you will move for me? All right, thanks. I was looking for the clicker. Slide 2. According to Craig Goschel, pastor, author, and leadership podcaster, culture is created by default or design. It is a reflection of what we create, that's design, or what we tolerate, that's default. Are you with me? What we create and what we tolerate. Goschel postulates that creating a strong culture is never by accident, and our work on building the right culture is never done. Those of you who are in people business, like many of us are in this room, the people professionals, you know your work, our work is never done. And let's be honest, technical challenges in organizations exist. But you know what? As you do the people business, and as you rise in the organization, Jomo, you could attest to that. I could attest to that. It gets harder and harder because what you're dealing with is people. That's the hardest part of the job, isn't it? It's the hardest part of the job. This is my 32nd year in public life, and I could tell you it is the hardest part of the job. And I work with an amazing group of colleagues. But they are different. Everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own views. I have a life mantra, and I'm going off script for a moment. So stay with me. Y'all had a hang with me tonight. I have this life mantra called KYC. Yeah. So in financial terms, financial regulator, which is what the central bank is, you go in the banking system, they talk about KYC, know your customer. Yes? So that's against money laundering and terrorist financing. I apply it to life. KYC, know your children. KYC, know your colleagues. KYC, know your countries. We take care of 8 countries. KYC, know your council members. I have 8 council members. KYC, and I can go on and on with it. One of these days I will write a little book on that. Everybody's different. You could have a child in the same house, same mother and father, all of the same inputs, with very different personalities. We see it in our own households. What do you think when you bring everybody together from different households, from different societies, from different countries, under one roof in your institution? What do you think it is? A beautiful, big, bold, beautiful challenge. To put it euphemistically. From a micro perspective, your mission is delivering reliable and safe electricity or solutions, which is an essential service, but is fraught with many risks. For this reason, compliance to safety protocols is mission critical for the management of risks while keeping your team members and the public safe. Now, next slide. Compliance minimizes accidents and safeguards against multiple risks, including financial, litigation, and reputational. But culture powers the heart of every organization because it drives connection and commitment. It drives connection and commitment. Now, from a macro perspective, next slide. Our region is operating in a VUCA world. I think some of you know that acronym, VUCA. VUCA stands for what? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It describes the dynamic and unpredictable nature of the modern operating environment. Colleagues, in light of the fundamental global restructuring that is now underway, the likes of which we have not seen since the Second World War, let's make no mistake, there's a fundamental restructuring of the global economic order now underway. That's not my assignment this evening to break that down, but take it from me, and you don't have to take it from me. You're watching the news and you're seeing what's going on, including the tariff wars. All of those things speak to a reordering. And I want to take VUCA one step further tonight and say it is not just a VUCA world, but it's a VUCA with a double A world, because I'm adding to volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, anxiety. Anxiety. And that anxiety is occasioned or being experienced by countries large and small. Look at what we're thinking about now about the potential tariffs on Chinese ships and other ships and what that could do for the Eastern Caribbean and for the region as a whole. And the fact that we are very heavily reliant on the US as a logistics hub for much of what we import. That's anxiety. At a time when we're trying to get inflation under control after several years of challenge, when we think we finally might be getting it under control, this has now emerged. There's anxiety for countries, there's anxiety for companies, but there's also anxiety for us as individuals. A VUCA world. But then you are in the business of energy. And as Dr. Burton said earlier, you are in transition. You are in transition. You have been in a place for a long time where you work for monopolies, and all of a sudden, the operating environment is changing. The regulations are changing. And yes, you understand why we have to go to renewables, but what does that mean for my company? What does that mean for my stable, decent paying job? The anxieties. The anxieties. And so we have to understand these contexts as we think about our theme of caring, of communication, of commitment. So this week, as you explore the central theme of this conference, I urge you to think boldly, stretch beyond the familiar, and see and seize the opportunities before us. I now want to offer you 3 key messages. Next slide. So those of you know when I give a little talk, the key messages is basically, if you remember nothing else, if you fall asleep after this, you got to remember this. All right? By the way, I'll be checking to see who's sleeping. I'll take your notes. Here are the 3 messages. Message number 1, adopt a growth mindset and strive to become ACE leaders. Persons with growth mindsets reframe problems as opportunities, and they are generally more reliant. And in the context of what I just said about this VUCA world, VUCA with a double A, you will understand that with all of these challenges confronting us, we need growth mindsets to reframe them as opportunities, and we have to model and demonstrate resilience. Resilience. What is ACE? ACE stands for persons who lead with agility, clarity, energy, and empathy. In my humble estimation, this model is a very useful construct to deliver organizational results while taking care of our most important asset, our people. I introduced this model to our central bank about 2 years ago. The second key message is this: embrace the big push. And that big push is accelerating our transition to renewable energy. I didn't say double or triple because depending on which country you're in, it varies. In the OECS, we're talking about tripling by 2030. So we are around 10% trying to get to 30% at least by 2030. Now, some countries have articulated even more ambitious plans, but we know getting there is not easy, as we have found for the last decade. As we have found for the last decade. And if for whatever reason this evening, the renewable energy transition is not your big push, for whatever reason, then I will say to you, determine what your big, bold vision is for your company and go for it. That becomes your big push. So you can decide. And thirdly, increase the scope and pace of collective action by leveraging your time-honored assets of solidarity, cooperation, and partnerships. And when I hear the membership and what you've done, I'm really impressed by what you've done, and I see potential for even greater development impact, which is why I suggest to you, you need to look at increasing scope and pace. Scope and pace. The times demand that we increase scope and pace of our cooperation and collective action. Now, next slide. Commitment and resilience are essential pillars of a growth mindset. Stanford psychology professor Carol Dweck teaches us that our abilities are not fixed. Instead, we grow through dedication, learning, and perseverance. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for us to develop and push beyond our limits. She speaks about the power of yet. The idea that success is not defined by what we've accomplished so far, what we did yesterday, what we did last week, what we did last year, what we did last decade, but what we are willing to strive for. Can we meet the moment at this juncture in our history? All that we did before was good, maybe even great. But now a new challenge confronts us. Can we meet that moment? The power of yet. In the Caribbean, we know this all too well because the shocks keep coming. Pandemic, inflation, tariffs, hurricanes, climate change, drought. That's our reality. The shocks keep coming. And these events have caused significant disruptions, but they have revealed something very extraordinary about our region, and that is our resilience. I define resilience as our capacity to absorb and withstand shocks and bounce forward. Not back, forward. Touch your neighbor and say, bounce forward. Touch your neighbor again and say, bounce forward. Go to the left, go to the right, bounce forward. By the way, let me tell you a little secret. That is also the cue to wake up anybody sleeping. Tool of the trade. So how do we nurture this mindset within our organizations? Borrowing from Dweck's insights. Next slide. There are key drivers for learning, motivation, and achievement. Look at this. Growth mindset. Growth mindset. And ultimately, it is about our desire to learn, to grow, and to get better. Every single day. It's not just through a basketball or cricket or football. It is true of us as professionals. How do we get better? Notwithstanding how long we've worked, notwithstanding our training and experience, we have to continue to adapt. And that's why it is said, the best leaders are the best learners. The best leaders are the best learners. That mindset of constantly adapting and growing, learning from everyone, including our children, including the youngest members of our staff, our teams, we can learn from everybody. And of course, learning from those who've gone before, the mentors, who can coach and help and guide. Next slide. And so, I want to bring to your attention something that we are doing at the Central Bank at this moment. And I speak to the Central Bank as speaking from our experience, which is live and a lived reality, not because the Central Bank is perfect. It's a great place to work, we think. That's what our staff say. But we're not perfect. No organization is. I am not perfect. No leader is. But here's the thing. We like to say at our Central Bank, feedback is a gift. And this year, our theme is embracing feedback, delivering results. So we focus on results, high performance, accountability, but we want to elevate culturally the feedback across the bank. So it's called embracing feedback, delivering results. And as we speak, the senior management, myself included, we are reading and learning from this book on screen, Thanks for the Feedback, by Douglas Stone and Sheila Heen. The Science and Art of Receiving Feedback Well. So we are literally reading this book as we, in this time. It's an excellent book because it speaks about the power, the transformative power of feedback. And I will commend the book to you. But here's the key. Well, one of the keys. The magic of feedback is not who gives it and how it is given. It is how it is received. Oh yes, you got me right there. We can't control how people give us feedback. And feedback, how it is given matters. I want to be clear. How we give feedback to our colleagues matters. But at the end of the day, we cannot control that. Sometimes they have a bad day and they give it badly. Sometimes I have a bad day and I may give it badly. I try not to. Generally, I don't. But there are times we don't deliver it as well as we should. And the key, if we want to grow from feedback, is not the who, but the do. What is the message in there for me? How do I leverage that to grow and to get better? So when I speak about the culture of caring and the culture of communication, I want to suggest to you tonight that look at how feedback is done in your organization. Many organizations make the mistake of trying to deliver feedback around performance appraisal. That's the worst time to do it. It is tense. It is often fraught with difficulties. Everybody's up in their feelings. It is not the ideal time to give feedback. I don't want to get into the book, but I'm getting excited, as you can see, and I'm off my text at this stage. But feedback has three basic elements, according to the book. And they use the ACE framework. Appreciation, coaching, evaluation. What we often do at the point of performance appraisal is evaluation. They caution you, do not mix coaching and evaluation. Evaluation is about how did I do. Coaching is about how can I get better. Appreciation is what did I do well. If we want to elevate feedback in organizations, we have to separate appreciation from coaching, from evaluation, and we have to be able to do these things outside of a simple performance appraisal mechanism. So the performance is just about evaluation. The two other elements cannot be covered there properly or are not generally received as well as they ought to because, as I said, people get very emotional about these things. Let me move on. I don't want to stick. So, ACE leadership, let me say a word or two on that. Next slide, please. The leadership model we choose impacts not only our organizational performance, but also the well-being, stress levels, and job satisfaction of those we lead. As leaders, we are leading a team, a department, or an entire organization. We are entrusted with creating environments where people feel valued, empowered, and supported. So that's what ACE is. Notice there are two E's there. In the VUCA world that I just told you about, VUCA with a double A, agility is critical. We have to be able to pivot. We have to be able to respond at fairly short notice. I remember during the pandemic, likes we had never seen, first one in 100 years. And in March of 2020, as a central bank, we had to quickly make some decisions. And two things were top of mind for us: keep our staff safe and serve our region well. The central bank operates a payment system in the currency union. We don't have the luxury of shutting down the bank and going home and saying, well, check us when the pandemic over. That's not an option. But at the same time, we have to make sure that staff do not get sick so that they cannot work. How do we do that? And I remember we took the very quick decision, very early decision, to test telecommuting in March. And by the time lockdowns were announced and this was announced, we had already tested working from home. And as it turned out, we did working from home telecommuting for the next 2 years. Most people, not everybody, most people. And we were able to perform and to deliver services while keeping people safe and working from home. So today, if there is some reason why people have to go out the bank for whatever reason, a storm or something, we know, we have experience, we have the capacity to keep going, even if staff, most of us, are working from home. But we have to pivot. We have to do that very, very quickly. One of the things we did during that time, as we went offline or online, virtual, was to do, instead of quarterly town halls, we moved to monthly town halls. Staff town halls. That's where we bring the entire team together and we discuss a range of issues. And the truth is that 3 years later, with the pandemic behind us, we still do monthly town halls. Because what we discovered is that it was an important touch point for ensuring effective communication. I never announce any major change initiative in the bank unless it is in a town hall. We will not send it by a memo and leave people to interpret the memo by themselves. Do it in a town hall. Take the questions, answer the questions, and then people go out and implement. And yes, there may still be questions after the town hall, but we give them an opportunity with everybody present, including myself, our HR team, director and team, to be able to engage with them on these issues. Now, I know in the business that you're in, linesmen, mechanics, working from home is not an option, okay? I get that. And it doesn't work for everybody, I get that. But as Jack Welch, CEO of General Electric, former CEO and chair of General Electric, famously cautioned, if the rate of change in the organization, if the rate outside of the organization is faster than the rate inside the organization, the end is in sight. I repeat that. If the rate of change outside of the organization, the operating environment, is faster than the rate of change inside the organization, the end is in sight. If countries don't adapt, they get left behind. If companies don't adapt, they get left behind. And so in the face of heightened uncertainty, there needs to be clarity. What do we do next? As leaders, we don't often always have the answers. I don't know the next 10 steps. What I must offer the team is the next step. That's clarity in the midst of uncertainty. And then the next step. And then the next step. And then the next step. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't. Life is uncertain. I don't know what announcements are going to come out next. We could speculate and anticipate, but that's what we do with clarity. I mean, think about it. You're taking a flight, and there's a bit of turbulence. What do you want? You want the captain to come on and tell you exactly what is going on, that everything is going to be all right, and if possible, tell you how long this turbulence will last, so that you could, clarity. It don't mean while the turbulence going on, you're necessarily enjoying it. But you have clarity. And it helps you to navigate the uncomfortableness or the discomfort of the turbulence. And that's what I mean by clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, great leadership demands will and skill. But it also demands energy. Energy. Touch your neighbor and say, bring the energy. Look to the next neighbor and say, bring the energy. And let me tell you something. If you came to this conference a bit low, by the time you leave this week, you're supposed to be on a high. You're supposed to get a charge up. You're supposed to get a reconnection and a recharge. And you're supposed to be going home, as Dr. Burton said, the executive director, ready to roll, ready to do things. See you? Ready to rumble. You see, you have to run to catch up with you because you have things to do, places to go. Nothing wrong with that. Because the truth is that, let's face it, in life, nothing moves. Nothing gets done in any company or any country without energy. Nothing. Of necessity, then, we ought to possess an unwavering drive to take action. Sometimes you go to organizations and they debate it. It's not a debate in society. It's not a university. There are times for lectures, and there are times for discussion, and then somebody had to take some action around here. The worst thing in a leader is a leader who can't make a decision. Have you ever seen that? That is paralyzing. It saps all of the energy of, I mean, you don't want that. So you got to be energized. You got to bring your energy. I remember when I joined the central bank 9 years ago, one of the first things I did as I did a listening tour across the bank was to start to understand where there were energy leaks, as I term them, and begin to address energy leaks. Because to do this business, this work is hard, you got to have energy. And we have to make sure as leaders we bring that energy. So I want you to bring your energy this week. A culture of caring. Now, about 20 years ago, while at the World Bank, the IMF invited me to share some insights on pursuing reforms in small open economies such as Grenada, where I served as financial secretary for several years. I offered several insights that day, but the one that resonated most was not economics, not empirics, it was empathy. And it was empathy after I invoked this phrase, next slide, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. Of all the things I said that day, and I said some useful things, they said, I agree. That was the most important takeaway for them. And 20 years later, they meet me all over the place. Last year I was in Fiji. They asked me to come and speak to them at the Pacific Forum in Fiji. And they reminded me, I was in Africa sometime, and you remember when you... That stayed with them. That stayed with them. That stayed with them. That speaks to empathy. That speaks to empathy. It's a key aspect of the ACE leadership model. Empathy builds connection with your teams, and it is vital to your leadership. A culture of caring builds trust and strengthens influence. And strengthens influence. Let me also say to you before I move on, language matters in this business. You know that. I know that. Language matters. It is not just what we say, but how we say it. Never call your direct reports subordinates. If you are taught that, dumb that. That is not appropriate. They're team members. They are your team members. And every team member has a role, and they are invited to star in their role. Those of you who like basketball like me, you might have the star players, and then you have those who do the dirty work, who do the hustle plays, who die for the loose balls, who would set a hard screen. All right, you all know I like basketball though, right? They're starring in their roles. And the superstars cannot be their best if those role players don't star in their roles. Don't call them subordinates. They're your team members. And we can't do what we do without them. So get off your high horse and understand you need them and they need you. We have to do it together. We have to do it together. We have to do it together. So you may not be linesmen or mechanics, but you are leaders who must have the backs of your linesmen and mechanics. And as leaders, we too must star in our roles. And that is why I submit for your consideration the ACE leadership model. At the ECCB, caring starts with a tone at the top. It's not HR. And I see a lot of organizations, go to HR. HR. Hello? The chief people officer in your institution is the CEO. I'm sorry. No disrespect intended to the HR manager. But the chief people officer in your organization is the CEO. You may disagree with me on that. We could discuss that over cocktail or whatever. My point is that tone at the top is essential. And I find, and I see sometimes in an organization, a default to just say HR and to sort of pull you away from it without understanding that when it comes to people management, it starts with the CEO. Maybe I should be speaking in the next conference, not this one, right? All right. I'm not asking for an invitation. I'm just saying, you might be saying, well, you're speaking to the wrong people here. But we have a couple of CEOs in the room as well. What does caring look like in your organization? What does caring look like in your organization? Just pause for a moment with me. All of you. You work for a company. You work for SKLEC. You work for the central bank. What does caring look like in your organization? Three small examples from central bank. And again, I'm just using it because that's where I am. It's not because it's the only place or the best examples. Flexi-time policy. Or flexi-time policy that you can come from 7 and you could leave at 3. Or you can come at 9 and leave at 5. Now, I'm not saying that will work for everybody, but why did we introduce flexi-time? We did it to give our staff more work-life balance. We recognized there were staff with young children who had to get them to school. They were being stressed out trying to get the children into school and then get to work for 8 o'clock. And it was creating issues, including, shall we say, less than optimal performance on the road. I'll just leave it at that. You follow my drift? And we said, we could fix that. We could help our staff. We could do well and do right. And we introduced flexi time. So you can pick whether you want to come in for 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, or 9. And that's what we do. Now, if you have a meeting with an external party at 8 o'clock, you have to come for 8 o'clock. That's clear. But we have flexi time. Then we do telecommuting from home 2 days a week. So we have 3 days you must be on campus, including full force days, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then you can opt to work from home if you wish for 2 days of the week. Again, we know we can do it because we've tested it, we did it for a long time, and we know what's possible. If your internet goes, you come in. If SKLEC, which is usually kind but is not so kind on that particular day, no disrespect intended, you have to come into the office. It's very simple. It's very simple. You know? Because the work has to be done. We can't compromise on that. But that flexibility is given. And then the third one I want to mention, there are others. Counseling support. We've been doing this for several years now. But coming out of the pandemic, when there was a big spotlight on mental health, we already were doing it, but we made a point of making sure, in fact, we expanded the number of providers that we were using. And I will tell you, it's a service that is very well utilized by our staff. And the key to that service is accessibility and confidentiality. So let me just say, we don't get who went. We get from the providers, a list of, number of visits, general broad areas, so we know the service is being utilized because we're paying for the service. But I don't get, Burton came and he wanted to discuss certain. Timothy came and he had a certain issue. I don't see that. None does HR. And we can't. Because if we did, we would compromise the service. We offered the service so that people could take advantage of the service. We want to know that they're getting help. We don't want to know their business. Now, I will tell you, there are some staff members who come to me and tell me their business. But that's because they trust. And in those circumstances, I counsel, I pray, I encourage. But that is entirely up to them. My point is that it's an important way of caring because people go through issues. Loss of loved ones, divorce, breakup, death, mourning, terminal disease, marital challenges. I mean, any number of things, illness, any number of things that people could be going through. That's what caring looks like in part at our central bank. So I ask you this evening, what does caring look like for you? The big push. Let me move on. I want to wrap up. In 2023, during the 40th anniversary of our central bank, I posed this challenge called the big push, framed as this question. Next slide. What will it take, thank you, to double the size of our economies over the next decade? So that was what I call the big push. That was for the region. We work for the region. But this evening, I ask you, SKLEC, what will it take to support the acceleration of the renewable energy transition? What will it take? What will it take? And then I want to make it real personal for those of you in the room. Something in it for you. What will it take to double your net worth? Anybody interested in having that conversation? Okay, we're going to schedule another session to deal with that, but I see that. Just saying. That's the big push. That's the big push. Now, the reality is that in our region, we pay some of the highest rates of electricity in the world. And that's not SKLEC's fault, that's not the utilities' fault. The fact is we are dependent on fossil fuels for most of our energy. We have some of the highest rates in the Western Hemisphere. And let's be honest, colleagues. At 30 to 40 US cents per kilowatt hour, we could never transform this region. Those high rates have impact on our foreign exchange, on our competitiveness, on household income, among many other things. But here's the thing, next slide. Each day we live, we have a choice. Every day, all of us, we have a choice. We have a choice to curse darkness or light a candle. You're going to say this with me now. I have to see if you're still awake. 2, 3. Curse darkness or curse darkness or what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? So that's what we did at our central bank. Next slide. Having regard for the situation, we didn't simply lament and curse the darkness. We invested in a solar plant, 1 megawatt solar plant with battery storage. I am advised it is the largest non-utility solar plant in the OECS or in the ECCU. And that investment is now saving us about $1.8 million per year. And no, it is not putting SKLEC at a disadvantage. Because Mr. Williams will tell you that 1 megawatt has been a very important investment in generating capacity in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But more than that, I use that example to command moral authority when I advocate for this region around the world. So that I make the point, if a small region and a small central bank can make that step, that investment, shame on you as a large emitter. You need to do better. Because you are the ones that are emitting and creating the climate change havoc that we are experiencing in the Caribbean? Moral authority. Bottom line, we cut in emissions, and by the way, demonstration effect. So much so that we're now encouraging our member countries to do likewise. And there's a project that we're working on, I see Karen at the back of the room, the Renewable Energy Investment Infrastructure Facility, which is to encourage our members to move in the direction faster of renewables. And I want to commend the recent announcement by the OECS Ministers of Energy for the Green Print, which is a framework to try to see how we could help mobilize and expedite. So let me wrap up. The third and final key message was increasing your scope and pace of collective action. SKLEC does great work. That's a fact. But this evening I want to suggest two areas before I sit, two potential opportunities where you can broaden the benefit for your membership. One, next slide, pool procurement. And so the question I ask, has SKLEC and its members considered pool or joint procurement for key inputs for utility companies and independent power producers? These may include fuel or spare parts. I mentioned this opportunity inspired by the example of the OECS Pharmaceutical Procurement Service, where the countries that use that service cut their costs by about 50% because they do joint procurement or pool procurement for pharmaceuticals. And in this difficult age, and where we are so small, can we come together, leveraging that platform, which exists? You don't have to create a platform. You can do bids via that same platform, which already exists at the OECS Commission. Is that something you can consider? I want to put it to you. Great. And what I would always encourage is a pilot. You go with a coalition of the willing. Not everybody wants to go in. That's fine. Coalition of the willing. That, I believe, could potentially mean higher profits for your company and lower tariff for your customers. That would be a win-win. The second one I want to mention quickly, and some of you are familiar with this, is catastrophe risk insurance. Full disclosure, I am the chairman of CRIF SPC. In 2007, following the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, the Caribbean launched the first multi-country catastrophe risk pool in the world. To date, CRIF SPC, formerly known as Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, has made 78 payouts, totaling $390 million US, all within 14 days. That was not a very generous applause, but I will tell you this. Let me just say this. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we do ourselves. We created this, the first multi-country catastrophe risk pool in the world. And we did it after a catastrophe, Hurricane Ivan. Destroyed Grenada, Jamaica, Cayman, and other countries were damaged. We found something. But you know what? Not only has this worked for us, we've expanded to Central America. Africa has been inspired. They now have ARC. Southeast Asia has been inspired. They now have Seadrift. And the Pacific has now been similarly inspired by this. They have PCRIF. This is a global exemplar that many others around the region, around the world, are now emulating. It came out of a disaster. But I'm going somewhere with this. Last year, when Hurricane Beryl struck St. Vincent and Grenada, give the example of Grenada, which had a policy, SKLEC, $9.3 million US payout to assist SKLEC with its recovery. NAWASA, the water utility in Grenada, $2.2 million US to assist NAWASA. And there were other policies that triggered as well. In fact, all combined, Grenada got, I believe, around $55 million US from the CRIF SPC. It worked. Anybody from Grenada here? Oh, okay. Kossi, yes. I didn't see you up front. All right. I see Kossi, I see Yusuf. Good, very good. And so here's where we go. So let me conclude. And before I conclude, I just want to give a shout out to Siobhan. Siobhan, back of the room. Siobhan assisted me with the slides that you saw, all these lovely slides. Siobhan Alexander. Siobhan is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My AP, Shian John, also from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My Director of HR, Merva Malaliu, from St. Kitts and Nevis. Cecilia Jeremiah, also from the Grenada Central Bank, in a senior AP in the Governor's Office. Thank you very much, team. Yusuf, I don't know who invited you, but you are a member of my staff or team. Welcome. Yusuf is an economist in our Research Statistics and Data Analytics Department. So let me conclude. I ask you this evening to reflect on how you can inspire and lead change within your organizations. What is your big push challenge? What is that big, bold vision that will propel you forward? I encourage you to consider and adopt, if you wish, the ACE leadership model. Adopt a growth mindset and strive to become ACE leaders. Embrace the big push and increase the scope and pace of your collective action. Ladies and gentlemen, you have the tools. Now go forward and build. Next slide. This is something of an anthem of mine. We cannot change our history. Nor can we change our geography. But we can and must elevate our development trajectory through innovation and collective action. It's the modern words of what Brother Bob said when he sang, stolen from Africa, brought to America, fighting for on arrival, fighting for survival. That's Buffalo Soldier. That's what that is, in my words. Because that's what we're trying to do as a region. Find a way to survive and thrive in a hostile global economy. And at the end of the day, it's not organizations that get things done. It is people who get things done. Have a wonderful, inspiring, and energizing week. Have fun. And may God crown all of your efforts with tremendous success. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Let's give Dr. Antoine another, I'm giving you a PhD. Mr. Antoine, another round of applause. If you didn't get to go to church this morning because you were traveling, at least you were able to get your soul filled tonight. I went to church this morning and the pastor said one of the foundations of the black church is call and response. So we had call and response tonight, so our souls were filled. And I want you to just reflect on what Mr. Antoine would have mentioned about being an ACE leader. And I don't think that he needed to speak any more about commitment and resilience to electric utility companies, because we're in the business of not producing energy, but being committed and resilient people because of all of the challenges that we face. So let's put our hands together for ourselves. We're almost at the end. I'm going to invite Mrs. Yvonne Kelly to do the declaration and to start the conference. So let's welcome Mrs. Kelly.
So sad you had to hear me, Blue Boy. Anyway, Mistress of Ceremonies, I wish to adopt the protocol that was so ably established. It is truly a privilege to stand before you this evening as we embark on what promises to be an enlightening and transformative gathering. This year's conference theme, Beyond Compliance, Creating a Culture of Caring, Communication, and Commitment, is both timely and critical as we navigate the ever-changing landscape of business and leadership. Using the theme as a guide, we must go beyond compliance to foster workplaces that are transparent, adaptable, and people-centered. As Stephanie Widu aptly put it, as companies continue to grow, evolve, and adapt to changing business conditions, grounding compliance practices is being transparent, flexible, and simple will serve as an important part of a company's successes. Over the next few days, we will engage in meaningful discussions. I encourage each of you to reflect on how we can practically implement these principles in our respective organizations. Let us move beyond compliance and work towards a culture where care, communication, and commitment are embedded in every decision we make. Having heard from our distinguished keynote speaker, I echo the call for purpose-driven leadership, one that is not only strategic and goal-oriented, but also empathetic and people-focused. With that said, it is with great enthusiasm and optimism that I now declare SKLEC 2025 Human Resource, Corporate Communications, and Customer Service Conference officially open. And before I depart, do have a wonderful time in Sweet Sugar City.
Oh, it's so fun to be here with all of you. We're almost at the end. Okay, we're almost at the end. I'm going to invite Miss Chelsea Jonge to do a vote of thanks and a presentation. Let us welcome the lovely Chelsea.
Hello, everybody. I know it's never nice to be the one standing between you and wine, so I'll make this very brief. I'm here to say thank you, and there are many people, as Dr. Burton said, that we need to say thank you to because, of course, nothing we do as an association is done without you. But before I go for the list of people, I want to mention our keynote. Governor Antoine, touch your neighbor and say, amazing. I think it would be a complete understatement to say that we're all in the room feeling extremely inspired by your words this evening. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here with us. And of course, thank you for imparting your knowledge. Extremely, extremely grateful. Mr. Williams and your team, the entire SKLEC team, for supporting us through this, for being here, and to Patrice for accepting Omari's challenge to make it even better than last year. I know you guys are seeing the efforts of the SKLEC team. They have a plan for us. 3 amazing days of great conversations, lots of networking, and of course, a lot of fun. To all our speakers tonight, and to the speakers that we'll be seeing over the next few days, we look forward to hearing you. Thank you for being a part of this. And most certainly our SKLEC team, guys, we are small but so mighty. This is one of so many events and conferences that we put on in addition to advocating for your needs, in addition to taking care of your training, and the list goes on. We do a lot, and we're 11 in number, if I remember correctly. 11 people serving 146 members. I dare say we do it effortlessly, yeah? Yes. But conferences like these, we rely on the support of our sponsors. Of course, our lovely co-hosts at SKLEC, but also sponsors who have invested their finances, their time and efforts into making this possible. And I'll start off with Crescent Digital, and I know Keon is in the room. Thank you for sponsoring to this year's conference. We have Agreco, Delta Petroleum, Carabel Batik, and Brimstone Hill Fortress, which we will be visiting. Thank you for your support, and we do hope that you will see value from supporting CARILEC's conference, and of course to you, our delegates. You chose to be here, 22 electric utilities, but also companies from St. Kitts and the rest of the world who are not in the energy sector but see the value of the conversations that we will be having over the next few days. We truly look forward to your contribution, and we look forward to sharing with you from our perspectives as well. Before I leave, I do have one thing to do, and this is a challenge to you, our delegates. Over the next 3 days, free things, very easy. The first thing I would like to challenge you to do is to sit with a stranger. The impact of conferences like these are not felt if you stay with those people that you attend a conference with. Meet somebody new, network, learn something new, engage. There is value in collaboration, and these conferences create the base for that collaboration. The second challenge, which I would like to think that we've already accomplished, is to not leave feeling uninspired. If for some reason, considering we've already checked that box, if for some reason you do feel uninspired, I dare you to challenge us so that we may further challenge you. If not this year, next year. And the last thing is that I cannot leave without putting a plug for our CARILEC events. And this is the first of many that we have throughout the year. In April, we're going to the BVI for the Line Workers Rodeo. We have CEOs in Curacao. In May, we have engineering, CARIC, and so many others in addition to our trainings. So I challenge you to learn more about how we can help to grow your teams, to strengthen your networks and your companies. I think these are all of the things that I have to say. This is my challenge to you. I really do hope, I encourage you to make the most of your time at this conference, to connect and to engage. And if you haven't already done so, the Cvent app is the perfect place for you to start that off. Download the app and engage with those people, especially those people that you really want to talk to learn about what they're doing. Send them a message and connect with them in the conference. And also, we're staying in the beautiful Sugar City. There are lots of places to meet throughout the resort. Thank you again, and let's make the most of this week. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Wilson to do the presentations.
So we just want to hand tokens. Kiefer will assist in that regard. We have just 2 tokens as we wrap up this in literally 1 minute. We timing it from when I get the tokens in my hand. Okay. So this is presented to St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited, proud co-host of the 2025 HR Corporate Communications Customer Service Conference. A plaque was collected on behalf of. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. This very heavy one. This is like really heavy. And Kiefer, I didn't come up with my glasses. Sorry. Okay, so let's see now. So this is for our keynote speaker, Timothy N.J. Antoine, and I can't read the rest. In appreciation of your, he'll read it for you, please. That's it. Okay, adjourned, cocktail, wine, fun. Thank you, everybody. Good.
Hold on. No, you're dismissed. Kindly join us next door for the opening cocktail, one of the first fringe activities that we'll have. And as usual, we look forward to you bringing the energy. We're not at the end, but we're at the start. So do have a wonderful conference.